Push one in the chat if you can hear me. All right, got a confirmation. Thank you for the confirmation, man. Welcome back to the Black Brain Trust. This is just a correcting the record again on 1.0, an addendum. Please hit the like button as you come in, man. Share the video if possible and hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust. Also, if you want to engage in the discussion, there'll be a link in the chat where you click on. When you click on the link, make sure you update your Zoom client before joining, or else you won't be able to join. Let me get that link ready. All right, let me share my screen. Let me know if you can see the screen in the chat now. Push one in the chat.
Yeah, I can see it.
All right, cool. All right, let's get started, man, because I hate that we have to do this every single opportunity that arrives, but it has to be done. What happens in the manosphere is that there are a lot of people in here who are just spreading, very fanciful ideas of what happened before. First, they said the space didn't exist. Now they're saying the space wasn't like what it was. They can't really make up this story. So I want to make sure that we're correcting the record. I'm only going to play 20 minutes of this because I think that's the only relevant parts of this that makes any sense. The rest of it has no relevance, in my opinion, at least not worthy of a long-term listen.
And although, you had a little bit of mixed...
All right, fair use, man.
I constantly hear, and I want to really speak on it because I've been kind of nice about it. And I'm going to really speak about it, pretty frankly. So definitely check out that link below. Obviously check out the content creator created it. If y'all like what's going on, subscribe. Gigi was in there towards the end. So if y'all like hearing Gigi, definitely check that out. And Marcus was the one running the video. So it talks about 1.0 revival. And a lot of times with these videos, you don't know if, okay, it's a clickbait in order to get you to click, or if it's really being discussed. In this end, it was really being discussed, so I will give you all that. Now, as far as and I did listen to it enough to know that. And Gigi comes in on the final half. He's like the only one that's really came up there, so it's really a conversation. It's really not, it doesn't have a lot of, BS in it. Now, that being said, let me jump right into the topic. One of the only dudes that are really out here in 1.0, like really active, is SWP. So I wanna be real clear about that because one of the things um, that annoys me about people bringing up 1.0 is number one, I'm starting to see a pattern where every time somebody brings up 1.0, what they're bringing up the white dudes, the white guys. You know, the Stardust, the Caucasians. Number one, that's technically not 1.0 because that's the white manosphere. That's MGTOW. And although, you had a little bit of MGTOW in 1.0 as far as in the black side of things, when we say 1.0, we are not talking about the manosphere as a whole. We are talking about the black manosphere. When the black manosphere started, then 1.0, 2.0, really, as far as I'm concerned, 3.0 is you may argue 3.0 is post Kevin Samuels, the post Kevin Samuels environment. You can argue that, and that's been around for a couple of years now. When I say post Kevin Samuels, you can argue, regardless of what anybody says, after he passed, because that's when the landscape really, really changed. When you really look at different stuff is what you're dealing with right now, and that's why the 1.0, the point O's are even done. One of the reasons is because they're designed to kind of give you each point O was a different in era. Like even the structure of YouTube was very different. For instance, shorts didn't exist in 2.0. And just like live streaming didn't really exist in 1.0. That's why you had to go to Ustream to do that, Blog Talk to do that, radio to do that. It really wasn't on YouTube like that.
No, so I want to make I have to stop it here because
so many lies in such a short period of time. Good Lord. And it's like you do realize that BGS had all the information before he started lying like he didn't have it. And this guy just jumped right out of the window with thinking when everybody's like, and here's the reason why they only bring up Sergeant Willie Pete. Because Sergeant Willie Pete does the type of content that they like, the whole complaint, drama, things about the black community, the woman not really accepting him. That's the only reason why they only talk about Sergeant Willie Pete, because pretty much they're doing his same content, but just giving it to a younger generation.
Yep.
But they actually dismissed everyone else within 1.0. Like, damn well Wacky World is they just deny and rewrite history right in front of their own people. Because out now, they don't respect their people at all. It's easy to have Edward come on this live stream and click the actual link, but he wants to build this audience and hide behind the collective ignorance of it. The same way that the three-letter Itmore guy does. Same way about this revival of the 1.0 thing. It's like all of this stuff doesn't need to happen because you can't talk about progress. You can only do content about a certain number of things. And that certain number of things have to involve the actual female. While claiming that you don't even do that. But it's crazy.
Well, I wanted to correct the record on 1.0, right? This idea that he's right in the sense that 1.0 predates live streaming. That he is right about.
That's true, completely true.
But live streaming isn't the only. I'm sorry, somebody was trying to get in. The lack of live streaming, the technological differences. It wasn't so much about just that, but it was the conversations that were happening before all of this. DC talks about this a lot, and I was one of those guys who was right next to him when all this was happening. We were around the same age. AOL Black Voices and YouTube Messenger and Black Planet, MySpace, those sort of amalgamations of technology platforms are what led up to all of this, right? And so the manosphere wasn't, when I say manosphere 1.0, it wasn't just a YouTube thing. It was a amalgamation of different technology platforms that allowed for us to have these sort of discourses in real time as much as possible. I think what happens with Edward Anderson in this context is that he thinks that we're only talking about 1.0. First of all, just for the record, I'm the guy who enumerated the space. So it's not the point O's, it's the enumeration of the history. It's not meant to say, oh, well, one guy is better than the other. It doesn't have anything to do with that. It has to do with enumerating the space so that people can understand that somebody came before and that should be recognized. Now, these 2.0 guys, especially the 3-letter guy, thinks that he's the only one that was here. Well, he says, when I came here, there was nothing here. But that's not necessarily true. He'll say that for himself, right? I mean, it's no different than a squatter who walks into a house. Well, I didn't see anybody living here, so I just figured, man, I just, lay my head down, but I'm not leaving, right? And so Edward is painting this picture as if people are romanticizing 1.0, but in reality, that's not true. People are not romanticizing it. We're telling the history because we were there, okay? Wacky World of O was a content creator. Soul in Black was a content creator. I was a content creator. DC was participating in the panel discussions or the actual discourse that was happening in the chats and whatnot. People were there, okay? We know what happened before, so we're just trying to add context. But what's happening in the manosphere is that you have these guys who want to rewrite history for themselves. Why don't you just have the 1.0 people up here rather than to try to tell the story that is not true? It's not factually true. So, and if 2.0 died with Kevin Samuels, how can you be 3.0? How can you be 3.0 just magically because somebody died? No, it doesn't work that way. You're versioning the enumeration that you accommodated. If 2.0 dies with Kevin, you don't automatically accommodate or commandeer 3.0. It doesn't work that way. If 2.0 died with Kevin, you die too. Stop making videos.
Or you keep it going in his absence.
Yeah.
But what you don't do is literally redefine a paradigm, dude, that literally this channel created. That Edward, bro.
Yeah.
Bro.
No, it's no different than Windows XP, with no support left. Yeah, you have it, and that's cool and all. Yeah, you get no support, no more service packs,
Wow,
no more
support.
patches. Yeah, no more patches, none of that stuff, man. You just get
no
nothing.
Updates, no updates, bro. No updates.
Yeah. Turn your BIOS clock back to 1999 and hope for the best. That's what you do.
The Y2K solution.
Yeah. Yeah.
Google Hangouts wasn't really, Google Hangouts kind of became a thing really in between 1.0 and 2.0. So live streaming wasn't even a thing. Like the whole infrastructure of YouTube is very, very different. Like doing nothing but uploads, it gives you a different kind of conversational architecture than being able to do live streams. It also keeps certain people from being able to do things unless you really mean it. Unless you gotta, and so the thing that I'm seeing is a lot of dudes are doing what white men do, talk about let's go back to the good old days. And this is kind of a way of romanticizing the past without a lazy way of romanticizing the past, so to speak. And so now what people are doing is they're not telling the whole truth about like what 1.1 was, what their goal was. Let's be very clear here. 1.0 was not this magical political organization designed to help black boys. 1.0 was not 100 black men.
Who said that?
Was not, all the little extra pro-blackity, like take every element and let's put it in there to create the perfect black masculinist civil right. That was not what 1.0 was.
Actually, Edward, you're wrong about that. The name Soul in Black. It's pretty, you don't need to be a rocket scientist or a PhD for that matter to really understand what Soul in Black really meant. The black male space was a pro-black space. Black men vent, yeah, they were all about black families and black traditionalism. Okay, that was Mr. Legend's hallmark. Okay. you can name quite a few. You know, I don't think you can name one content creator that was against the idea of being for Black progress. I mean, that's really what pro-Black really means in this context.
Well, Mike, in all respects to you, because see, for those of y'all that don't know, the reason why all these people say 1.0 and 2.0 and 3.0 and all that is because of Mike V.
Yeah,
see, I know. But what I want to say is that, so let's just take that off the table, because see, that is a meme, right, centric to this platform here. But see, prior to that, it was called what? The Black Male Collective Consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you can't really help people who deliberately lie about things that are already out there. Said the previous day or the previous concept. I mean, it just goes to show you that what they don't like about 1.0, what they truly don't like is they wouldn't have a voice in 1.0. That's why they really don't like it.
Ding,
You have
ding,
to bring
ding,
things
ding.
of substance in 1.0. Otherwise, nobody would listen to you. Here, in like their version, it's all about building the audience and leveraging the most collective ignorance that you possibly can and lying about everything.
It's all this modern shit, MOT.
Yeah, I mean, all of this, who gonna check me, boo? Manosphere, ME.
Who got subs?
Yeah. Well, you know what? They're more successful than everyone else. I'm like, dude, listen, man. I already got a full-time life. I didn't come here to be a professional YouTuber. All right, I didn't do that. Sorry ass motherfucker.
And 1.0 was definitely not here to do that, because there was no such thing as at the time.
No. Let me finish playing this.
1.10 was a group of dudes that saw that this stuff was messed up, and they basically, their main thing that they contributed was a fact-finding mission. That's what they did. It was a fact-finding mission. Basically, what's going on? Why is this stuff repeating itself? And are these women? And what's up with these? Like, really, what's up with these women? Let's really, the internet's here. Let's really take the time and really go through these things. Have a conversation with men to see if men are having the same experiences, and then to a certain extent, put stuff out there. Let's see how these women respond to it, and whether they're outside of the mainstream media. Let's have an actual. That's the original quote unquote. Let's talk. And it wasn't directly talking to women, but it was very indirectly talking to women. Dudes like SWP, and there were others, were indirectly either directly or indirectly having a conversation with women. So,
no, the space existed before Sergeant Willie Pete. You have to understand that there was a conversation happening long before Sergeant Willie Pete got here. And the reason why Sergeant Willie Pete's voice is so prominent in this space, because he had a loud megaphone. Okay, he came in there on a completely different cadence, and so the cadence that was happening before was a lot more subtle compared to what Sergeant Willie Pete came in as. Okay, he's radically different now than what he was before, but for context sake, this makes, I have to, correct the record, because what Edward is trying to make it seem like there was only 3 content creators. Not true, okay? Not true. And it was not just 3 sides. Everybody was pro-Black, okay? Everybody. It may not be walking, dashikis like I am in my avatar, or any unks or anything like that, but there was quite a few guys in here. If you said something sideways about sisters, man, or even Black people in a political lens, you was out of there. Okay, you may have not had your channel flagged, but people didn't take you seriously after that, because you only have one opportunity to really get this off. And so if you say something that's out of the box, man, out of pocket, people didn't take you seriously as a content creator. You didn't really get a whole lot of support like that.
And Mike, I was going to say, dude, once again, we have to consider like what YouTube was back then. It's not what it is today. That's why I'm sitting here listening to this guy. He's just rambling. And I even saw a comment in the chat about, well, subscribers do this. Do you remember YouTube 10 years ago? I literally just shared a video that I put up on YouTube. It was something that we produced from 15 years ago. YouTube was a completely different place at that time.
It was a totally different environment. You hit it right on the head. The environment was very different. And what's going on, fam? Much of what was going on back then, and especially when you talk about, let's say, Thug Titian, that a lot of people would know, as he spoke, and other brothers who were in the space at that time, it was more of a movement. Guys were calling this thing more of a movement than what you're looking at here today, where things are kind of all over the place and dating coaches and this and that and all, just a whole lot of hodgepodge. This madness came running into the space. But back then, this thing was really focused on your development and really on black male development and black male speech and black male and black men really, 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 asserting themselves, but yet putting a movement together where you could express yourself as well, and really kind of come in as a way of protecting yourself in so many ways, spreading a lot of that knowledge and that understanding of what we kind of had to do as brothers. And it was small. It was, even though it was considered big, then, hey, things are going pretty big, but still, you had channels that had 2,000-3,000 people. Your channels were fairly big back then. Things were much different. Things were much different. Once again, there's a lot of guys said, and I said it years ago when we saw the platforms come in, such as, the Google Hangouts and all of that, and the live streams and all that stuff that really started to hit. That changed, that changed the trajectory in some ways, where you had a lot more people coming in, and then it moved in some other areas as well. It changed things, but it was a movement. It was very much a movement back then, where today that is far from where, the original 1.0 was really about. It was definitely more politically, socially focused than this hodgepodge of madness you have today. Anyway, go ahead, Mike.
Stolen Black was indirectly having a conversation with women, and people were putting certain things out, certain ideas out, and this was like one of the few times you had a conversation outside of a middleman. Black men were having a conversation with each other, and then black women. I mean, I'm gonna keep it real with you. Child support wasn't even talked about like that. You may argue
that's impossible for that to. I don't know where these guys get these statements from. All of these guys were men's rights activists. Dude. Okay.
Wow.
Kobe, NBA West, Thug Titian. All of these guys were men's rights activists. They considered themselves MRAs. And they were very skilled in this area.
Bottom line.
So to say that, when guys weren't talking about child support, they weren't talking about alimony. What are you talking about? They're MRAs. How can that not be a part of the lexicon? It doesn't even make any sense to say that. But let me finish playing this video.
Tommy Sotomayor talked about child support for y'all that want to.
Tommy Sotomayor was not Manosphere 1.0. He wasn't. He was Black YouTube, but he wasn't a part of the space. He even denounced the space many times. He was an antagonist.
Be contrarians, but for the most part, child support wasn't even talked about like that really until 2.0. Until really Angry Man and when I say Angry Man, there's other people talk about it, but I'm talking about people that really popularized it. Really popularized the situation because Tommy, when he was talking his stuff, he was talking a lot of that stuff he was on some Tom Likas stuff. A lot of that stuff, everything was rotated, but it wasn't like, okay, this is the thing I'm gonna push above all else. If anything, he was promoting black female bad behavior, and basically the community is on some black redneck stuff, and here's why, mixed with some World Star Hip Hop style sensational. I mean, if World Star Hip Hop had a radio show, it would be Tommy Sotomayor. So so you can't really credit any individual thing on him other than that, because nobody was really putting that on their back. Angry Man was one of the first to really do that and aggregate people that are really having that fight.
Actually, this is wrong. This is wrong because
I don't think Angry Man would even say that.
No, it was way off. He's way off from that.
Jenks Morton produced a documentary called "What Black Men Think" in what we consider to be Manosphere 1.0. See, this is what I'm saying. He produced a documentary, and he was on YouTube, and he was in the streets, and he was hosting these events. Okay.
And this was back in 2006.
This is back in 2006. Okay. They talked about the child support game. The guys from Philly 215, and those cats that was out there, they produced a documentary out there called Who's the Mac? Okay. It was about Black community, Black relationships, and the Black family structure. Okay. It's not on YouTube anymore. They've completely wiped all that content off for whatever reason. I've asked them several times why they did that, and they, I guess there was kind of expiration or copyright or something on there. And then you take Tim Alexander's Diary of a Retired Black Man.
Yeah,
Tim was in the space. Okay, so what's happening here is when you're not fully if you weren't fully immersed in the space, you would not know all of this. Okay. There were other guys like Al Grease who produced a documentary, who were producing content as well.
Okay? Yep, I knew him. I knew him down in Brazil. I knew him. Frustrated. A couple of my boys was on that. Knew him quite well. So
and so this is part of why I had to enumerate the space in the way that I did, because there is a backstory to all of this. There is a history to all of this. And what's happening here is you're only getting bits and pieces and fractions of the history by people who had already denied it to begin with, because they only want to tell the part of the story that makes 2.0 look good and makes 1.0 look incompetent. And that's not true. Okay. So I'm here to set the record straight on that. Let me play this. Go ahead.
Oh, I just one other quick point to that, man.
Mm-hmm.
That was why I brought up the fact that you were the one who enumerated it,
mm-hmm.
right? Because you're the one who gave it the meaning that exists. When everybody says it's like, I'm sorry, y'all got to give it to Mike V, because see, he's giving it to y'all straight. He's the one who knows.
Yep.
And so my point is, a lot of folks, what they do is they say everything was right in 1.0. That's actually not true. Because the reality is there were certain things, conclusions that weren't come to until really 2.0. 1.0 didn't come to the conclusion that these women are not worth.
That wasn't the point of 1.0. But see, that's the lens that he wants to, argue from, right? He wants to look at it through that lens that everything's about Black women and that's it. No, that's not true. That's not true. Solon Black was talking about flipping houses in 2009 at the end of the economic downturn. During Obama's first term, okay, he was showing you how to get rehabs in Baltimore that were going for
those loans, the rehab loans that they.
Oh no. He was talking about short sales and flipping rehabs.
Oh, short selling. Okay, all right.
Yeah, and so. You also had the brother of Common Sense and Logic, who was a master plumber and gas fitter and a Boilermaker. Okay, there's another brother who was in the space who worked on I forget the term for clean water, but basically he replaced water boilers and stuff like that and water filtration systems inside buildings, commercial and residential, and showed the difference on how Black people with these lead pipes in their homes were actually killing them. Okay, he showed several videos about this, and then you had Captain Soul, who did master electrician videos about wiring harnesses and wing nuts and stuff like that. All the sort of different things that make up your AC voltage in your home. Okay. And so the idea that, oh man, it was just about talking to the Black women, that's not necessarily true. That wasn't the whole space, because Sinetta wasn't talking about that. What's this other brother's name? What's the other brother's name? Thug Tisha wasn't talking about that. I mean, his videos are still there. The archive is still there. So I just want to make sure that we're saying that, the history is not what he's telling you. So, yeah.
So you cannot salvage them. The rot is too deep. They are too invested in things that are against their own long-term best interest. You can't negotiate with somebody that is invested is not invested in their long-term self-interest, because like at that point you're talking to Joker, because they don't even understand like the cycle as far as where this ends for them. So therefore, you can't negotiate that. That was not figured out in 1.0. And it not because 1.0 wasn't smart enough, it's because of a variety of factors that 1.0 didn't have control over. Technically, 1.0 did lead to go to Gen X. Technically, a lot of them did that because YouTube was very hostile. Remember, Facebook was very hostile.
Wait, what did he say about Gen X?
Conversations were had on Facebook.
He's just saying that there were some guys who left to go to Gen X. He's not wrong in that.
Oh, he said left to go to
my
Gen X.
point
Okay,
in making
got
this
it.
video is really to set the record straight as far as at least my vantage point with what was actually done and what actually was not done. They did a good job setting the tone and having, okay, this is what happened. And also, here's another thing too I want to say. 1.0 does not include Caucasians. So when you hear people talk about 1.0,
Who the fuck said that?
I've talked to, and every time I talk about like 1.0 gets brought up, if you ask them what were your favorite content creators in 1.0, like SWP, not SWP, so SWP somebody I listened to, you had Mr. Research, who was Alpha Male Wisdom. You know, these people, I notice these people don't get brought up. What they bring up Stardust, they bring up the white boys. The white boys are not 1.0 because the white boys are in the white manosphere. 1.0 wasn't before the black manosphere. And this is letting me know that a lot of folks, when they bring up 1.0, what they're essentially doing is they're sorry, I'm gonna say retarded terms because I don't want to curse. They're crapping on black men. Because every time I see them bring white 1.0 up, I'm talking about like not subscribers, but like people that don't have channels. They're bringing up Caucasian men. Like that's happened about 3 or 4 times recently that I brought that up. One on my stream, they're bringing up Caucasian men, and
you're not talking about 1.0. You're not talking about 1.0. If you're talking about the Caucasian guys over there, you're not talking about 1.0.
No, but who's doing that though?
Guys that were not a part of 1.0 that had no clue.
Nobody.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like nobody that wasn't keeping it 100. He didn't bring that guy up. He didn't bring any of those folks up. We didn't bring those folks up.
Yeah, nobody.
DC didn't bring any of those folks up. Big J Triple X didn't do that. Wacky World of O, the original old man, didn't do that. Who are you talking to?
No.
Who are you talking
Nobody.
about? Soul and Black didn't do that.
Nobody.
It's like watching Trey, from Boys in the Hood punch the air after Ricky got killed, man. It's like just stop, bro. Just stop.
Don't tend to be that critical of Caucasian men. Even take Rollo Tomasi, for example. They tend to be at best indifferent, but they're not going after these dudes.
Why is Rollo Tomasi?
They're not really. No, because you don't believe that's proper to do that. You don't believe that's proper to go after white men. And this is another issue I have with this crap. Like when you have a lot of black men, that they have all this leeway and freedom to exercise your quote unquote masculinity, checking black men when the society tells you that's okay. Y'all won't do that checking non-black men. There's exceptions to the rule, but for the most part, what y'all do is y'all try to act like it's not a big deal or find ways out of it. Now, granted, if you all meet, if that stuff comes to you, some of you all may handle it, but y'all don't go out of your way to seek it out like you all seek this disagreement with black men. Oh, in the good old days. What are these good old days? Oh, 1.0. Okay, who was your favorite content creator? Oh, Stardust and da-da-da. I'm like, yo, these are white people you're making it.
Who's making an argument?
Yeah, I mean, nobody said that. I mean, but this is it. But this is the actual problem that I have with these psychopathic black men who just lie about shit with no context whatsoever. There is nobody who ever said anything about Stardust, who's now channel called Thinking Ape. Nobody has brought his channel up at all. No one has even shared his content at all. But it's kind of like they want to keep diverting the conversation. They keep lying to the actual audience when that's just not the case. And then don't drop the link so that way we can correct the record. So this is why we got to keep doing this, is because you got these manosphere book burners who want to actually just start burning the actual history of the manosphere because it doesn't look good for them. that they are the part of the manosphere that really took it into the wrong direction. It had a bunch of people in here that nobody would respect or even try to court for any other reason other than popularity. Whenever you try to talk about progress, they always turn their head toward numbers and look how well I'm doing as a person versus how many people I'm holding behind and eventually destroying. I don't. It just makes you just brazenly upset to watch somebody lie about this type of stuff.
MOT, you really don't have any other recourse, right? Like we in 2018, when Mike did what he did, when he contextualized everything, and then I wrote the manifesto for 3.0, we set it in stone, or digital stone, let's just say, what this new paradigm was about. And we tried to tell them back then, there was a shelf life to all of this. Now, post Kevin's passing, all of a sudden, we want to now try to define what 3.0 is. It was defined 5 years ago. Don't try it.
I mean, but to them, it's another slick diss to just keep pretending like that didn't happen, pretending like the live streams isn't up, that it's dated, that you can't get out of saying that wasn't there. But it's just that when you have stupid ass black men who go around because they have no value to bring to the group, the only thing they have to do is sow a whole bunch of misinformation and disinformation in order to sit there. And I'm telling you, these full-time YouTube dudes are dangerous as hell. If they would lie about this, what wouldn't they lie about to keep their audience? Or even hide the truth from their audience?
MOT, if they're full-time YouTube, they will say whatever the hell they got to say to get a check.
You know,
can't have people around me like that, man.
That's not 1.0. 1.0 were the black men that pretty much started to they created their own stuff. And then that got destroyed, and then that got recreated. That is 1.0. 1.0 is 1.0 is not the white boys. The fact that I even have to say that just goes to show you all, a lot of you all are just making that up. A lot of you all got the term 1.0 from 2.0.
The fact that you say that, you're making it up.
I don't see none of y'all sharing videos of old, because they still exist. Even you got to know where they are, but they still exist. Old 1.0 videos or old 1.0 converse. Y'all don't share that. They got re-uploaded. No. What y'all do is y'all just make that crap up as a way of jumping on fucking 2.0 or O'Shea or BGS.
Get it out, Edward.
Get it out. Even though y'all won't directly say his name, or Obsidian. These are ways y'all just shit on them without really having to address the key points of things that y'all actually disagree with. It's a lazy way of doing it. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do the video, because a couple of things that were brought up, like I saw some of the comments, a couple of things that were brought up was this idea of, if we're coming, like I think Gigi brought it up, where he was saying, if we're coming back together,
get it out,
what
bro.
are we coming back together on? The social contract conversation is something that I fundamentally came up with. A lot of these people in 1.0.
Oh, really? Oh.
A lot of these people.
That's what I mean.
They're bringing up concepts that weren't even formulated in 1.0. And then they're associating everything that's good about this space with 1.0. Even the platforms by which you all build your arguments on are not 1.0 in nature. Most of y'all don't even go back to the part where it was just uploads, or it was actually a concept called
yes, it is.
Video in the YouTube infrastructure. You can't even have an intelligent conversation with me about what YouTube was like back then, because a lot of you all were not there. And so you all are arguing against something that you all didn't even really
to include you.
Because if y'all did, really YouTube wouldn't even be the only place you would be talking about. You would be talking about Blog Talk Radio.
I think Mike B said it was on multiple platforms.
You would be talking about certain stuff that don't even exist anymore. That's what you all would be talking about.
Wow.
Because that it's enough of that it's part of the conversation. And so that was one of the bigger things for me was this idea of social contract? What are we coming to? And I was listening to a couple of different points. I was like, yo, this stuff, yeah, it needs to be re-talked about because I don't think it's hit home. So the idea, really, if anybody's having a pro-black conversation, this is one of the things that kind of annoyed me about, like, recently I did a live stream, and I'll link that in here, me critiquing SWP on some of the stuff he was talking about with the Color Purple commentary that has to do with the black men and black women not coming together and black people in a bad place. We are beyond in a bad place. Black women are invested in the black community's destruction. That is black women are invested in black men's destruction, and they really do not care if they take the black community down with it. That is where we are. It needs to be very clear that that's where we are. That is what we're dealing with. Everybody wants to, make it nice, and they want to make it sound like it's not as bad as that, but it is that bad. You hear it when they think they're safe on social media, what they say.
For the record, he's making top ramen noodles.
I was about to say, what is he doing? What is he doing?
Shrimp flavored.
Okay, all right. Shrimp.
That is not a minority.
My daughter's favorite.
That is not a minority, by the way. Y'all think it's just a minority of a minority of a minority. A lot of these women have these feelings. This is why they can get as much traction as they get when they say these ridiculous statements. And a lot of y'all don't want to accept that. So what you all do is you all pretend like it's not that bad. Or they're acting out. Or they're just lashing out because of colorism and because they hate being black. And they don't really know how to deal with that because they don't have really a way of, they really want to punch out. That's what they really want to do. They really want to, when I say punch out, they really want to, quit being, they want to quit blackness. Do not make no mistake. They want to quit blackness and they can't do it. And so they're raging out, lashing out because they can't do that. They're looking for, like, when they gave them the opportunity to be single mothers and all that, they ran with it.
And like I said, do with anything.
You know what he's doing, right? This is his idea of rational SBE, right? This sort of, I'm going to include black women into this 1.0, 2.0 discussion, even though 1.0, 2.0 really has nothing to do with black women. He shoehorned it in there. You can't make this up. He shoehorned it in there. Anytime you talk about, you've ever heard me speak on 1.0 or this 2.0 or these different sort of variations of male spaces in history, I don't refer to black women coming to a table or, anything that has to do with, these sort of conversations. I always just talk about what black men were doing back then and what the temperature of the space was back then and what the history was. I never really go into whether or not black women were coming to a table because women existed in the space. It wasn't like it was 100% male and then that was the end of it.
He thinks there was panels going on.
Yeah. Well, he thinks that people were jumping back and forth, in these female conversations. He would be right if he was just talking about Sergeant Willie Pete. He would be dead wrong if he was talking about the whole space.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. It was a different place.
Did a good job basically doing some fact-finding work, getting things started, at least from a Q&A standpoint, but actually and coming up, but the really proving to the masses, or proving without a shadow of a doubt that this stuff can't happen. That was done in 2.0. A lot of the snitching that black women did on their own, basically Frank Castling themselves, so to speak, getting on, that episode in Daredevil when Frank Castle, John Berthold's character, Frank Castle, came on the stand and said, I'm not crazy, this is who I am, this is what I'm going to do, this is who I'm always going to be. This is being a hostile witness. This is what 2.0 did. And I'm not going to engage in this 1.0 versus 2.0 argument. If folks want to live in their ignorance and folks want to play some good old days and all this BS and then come up with concepts that really were pretty much created and strengthened in 2.0, that's fine. You want to live in ignorance, fine. That's anti-red pill, but cool. But at the end of the fucking day, a lot of folks are basically using 1.0 as this way of shitting on 2.0 without actually having to have an intellectual argument about it. And then people are attributing things that happened in 2.0 with 1.0
There's
because
no
1.0,
argument to have.
you know, that we need to get back to 1.0. We need to do this. Yo, y'all, a lot of y'all don't even fucking know what 1.0 was doing. Y'all, a lot of y'all would not agree with 1.0. 1.0 was doing a lot of that SBE bullshit y'all want to bring up. 1.0 was pretty much the main ones doing
Wow.
that. Y'all want to act like 1.0 is indifference. That is a lie. There was three
Wall of silence, anyone.
there was three versions. There was three camps really in 1.0. You had the pro-blacks, the people that were there in order to find a way to quote unquote come together to see what are these issues to come together. You had the people that were more in the middle. SWP occupies that space where he has his pro-black leanings, but he's not willing to sell himself completely out himself, and then that manifests sometimes in him not willing to sell black men out, although sometimes he would play this sacrifice game. You know, sometimes he go back and forth with it. So you got them niggas, purple pill, and then pro-blacks could be considered blue pill, because a lot of them dudes, they would just, every time they would have a purple pill or red pill idea, they would basically neutralize it with pro-black rhetoric in their own head. That's really what blue pill is in the black community. How it manifests is it manifests in two ways. It manifests in Christianity, which, granted, SWP was one of the vanguards.
Let us know, Edward, how.
As far as how the pathology of black Christians, I will give him that credit, absolutely. And it wasn't just him, it was others. But he would go through the pathology of religion in general. Christianity would be just generally where it manifested. But you do see it manifesting in Hebrew Israelites too. Then, cause as far as the pro-black, we're all together, extra sauce. You know, not really seeing it as a matriarchy, which is women basically are having this conversation for rulership when they need to completely devote themselves to that thought process. If they think they're going to get any protection or provision, this is the stuff that doesn't get talked about. These are the conversations that don't get had. And when they are had, the women try to make up all these reasons as to why they're not going to do that, which is like, regardless of the reasons you have, you're not getting this unless you do this, which is why SYSBM became prominent. Again, SYSBM became prominent in 2.0, not 1.0. I don't even believe it was started in 1.0.
Actually,
oh my God.
Actually,
yeah.
Mike, let me. With that statement, we was consistently getting clowned by O'Shea and Angry Man because we were leaving the country because we had a problem with the women that were here. That was their primary focus against it back then. We're talking about 5-6 years ago. And that's on the record. That's everybody who's here. That's not beefing or trolling or anything. That's just what it was. It's like, there wasn't all these people who were supporting SYSBM back in the day. No, it only came up being an actual option whenever the trolling of the women with passport bros came around. That's why everybody else just started being on this SYSBM stuff. You know, when it came to just trolling the women and telling them how much they didn't want to be with them. This is why I just dropped doing the content, because these individuals I did not want on my channel. And that's why I stopped doing the actual content. So that way I could get these people the hell away from me. Because no, it's just that a lot of these people want to remix and redo things that they had no hand in making. But that's that, like I said, the sociopathic nonsense that come from these full-time YouTubers. They gotta lie about everything.
To add on to your point, Soul and Black's Wall of Silence, okay? Like it or hate it, the purpose of the Wall of Silence was to stop negotiating or stop engaging women who weren't on your program, okay? I remember distinctively, no highs, no buys, no nothing. Stop engaging, okay? And that was 1.0's way of dealing with not having to explain yourself and for black male progress. Like, in order for you to progress, you had to abandon that part of engagement. And so when Edward Anderson says the whole space was SBE,
1.0.
you know, yeah,
1.0
1.0.
was SBE.
Another lie.
1.0 was SBE. That's not necessarily true. That's not necessarily true. I don't think Tim Alexander was SBE. I don't think that Jenks Morton was SBE. I don't think so. In fact, before there was an SYSBM, that was Tim Alexander's pitch in Diary of a Retired Black Men. That was how the movie had ended, right? The idea here was he found something for him overseas. Okay, that was how it ended. He was on the beach with this Caribbean sister. So this idea that it was all about SBE and that's just not true. That's not true. Now SWP might have had some SBE going on, but that's not necessarily the hallmark of the space. And so I think it's important that we do highlight this. That I don't remember any guys trying to serenade women, back to the table. I don't remember any of that type of stuff. I think that there were a lot of Black men who were getting their ish off about their experiences in life as Black men in Western society. But I think when you had brothers from the Caribbean, brothers from the UK and whatnot, really partake in these discussions, I think it opened up a different or expanded the conversation even further, which is how you got a thugtician. And so people still had a lot of respect for a lot of the diaspora. Today, you don't have that in 2.0. There was a lot of railing against brothers who are not born in the United States or quote unquote ADOS. That's a 2.0 thing. That's a 2.0 thing. You didn't have that in 1.0 because if I name 5 content creators, I can guarantee you 3 of them are from the outside of the diaspora or outside the United States. Thugtician, Wacky Word of O, and what's this other brother, man, from the what's this other brother, man? He's from the I think he was from the Bahamas or Trinidad. I forget his name right now, but basically, out of 5 content creators I can name off the top of my head, 3 of them are from outside the United States. So this idea, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say this.
I was just going to say 3.0 mirrors that. A lot of the brothers that are part of this space, and they're going, you can tell me if I'm wrong. Sure. We're collected from all over.
Yeah,
right? We mirror that. Yeah.
There's no doubt that they're brothers from all over, and certainly on the Brain Trust, that's a fact as well. So yeah, there's no doubt about that. Kind of getting into this argument of separating ADOS, and it's all
exactly.
It's just another way of creating a lot of separation. But I would like to say also about Jenks Morton. He was setting the record straight to a large extent, where how brothers who were really in 1.0 were really setting the record straight on what Black men really were and kind of what we really looked like. There was a lot of misinformation out there on us, and a lot of course, bad press, as we know, that really wasn't really, portraying you how you really looked. And those brothers were very, very key, I thought, in setting the record straight to a large extent, and explaining a lot of that. And Jenks Morton, I believe, was kind of at the forefront of that, because he really came out with one hell of a documentary.
Not just one. He came out with 5 or 6 documentaries.
No, he came out with. But I'm saying what Black men think, and he said,
what's the most prominent one?
Most prominent one. Why did I make this video? It had this documentary had to be made. I had to set the record straight here. He came in with a lot of stuff after that, but no doubt about it, that video there, or that how would I say, documentary, really set the record straight, really on Black men in the Black manosphere, and what that really looked like. And it was groundbreaking. And that was a big spirit of what 1.0 was also about. You can't miss that. And as to what we have here today, it's far different. But anyway, go ahead.
And you can't say that these guys were grifters, okay? Because they never accepted a dime from anyone. They funded their own documentaries. Well, you could probably do something if you wanted to do money order or something like that. But in actuality, they funded their own projects. That's the most important part. And so a lot of guys on here, will say, "Oh man, grifting happens in all spheres." That's not true. That's not true. No, a lot of Shinetta raised a lot of money for his events. Okay, he did that all on his own. He never asked a dime for anybody in here. So, and I include Shinetta because he was in the space. He was kind of like a satellite to the space. But I think that anybody who was a satellite to the space pretty much had their towing here at some point. The point of the matter here is that to say that, guys were on this type of stuff, there's no evidence of this. Collectively, there's no evidence of this.
And so Mike, it's interesting. It's interesting that you would bring him up, dude. It's interesting you would bring that cat up because that is something maybe a lot of people didn't actually even know. He was bouncing in and out of here.
A lot of people were in and out of the black male social spaces. It was impossible for you not to be.
Speak on it, man. Speak on it.
It's impossible for you not to be. It was popping back then, and so to say like, oh, Manosphere 1.0 was really, really small, and it was, really minuscule, didn't really do much, didn't have a huge impact. I don't know. Claudia Jordan, who's on Fox Soul now, she was in the space responding to Sergeant Willie Pete. That's how impactful the space was. It pulled people in from the outside into the inside. Even Rob Reddy and Dr. Tommy Curry were in the space. So for anybody,
just had Judge Joe Brown over here, like what, a month and a half ago?
Yeah, but that's not 1.0. I'm just talking about 1.0.
I'm just saying, I'm saying the effect that what you're saying, right? Because see, like, here's the thing, bro. What the problem, Mike, that I'm having is that he's trying to paint a narrative, right, about that time, and he's using today's context. And I'm saying, well, what you're illustrating is that, well, the same thing that's happening today was happening back then. It was just different.
Yeah.
But it happened because you're talking about the Jenks Morgans and the Timothy Alexander movies. And there was shit. Claudia Jordan was in the motherfucker, right?
What I'm saying here.
So to say that it was little or small and it was just insignificant and then start throwing all these other people in that literally have nothing to do with anything, bro, you're really trying to rewrite history right now.
Yeah, let me finish playing 5 more minutes of this, and then we're done.
So again, you got people giving, and you get to talk to Matt Bus Driver about that, but you got people, it may have been very much murmured about in 1.0, and I don't even believe that, but it really got popped off in 2.0. Because again, black men were not really at a place where they, like, remember, BGS did that video in 2017. I'll put the link of that in the description. Should black men just walk away from black women? And that conversation was being had maybe a year before, but the point is that's really a mark as to when that conversation was, and it's still there, the video's still there. So people weren't really even asking that question like that in 1.0. That wasn't really a question. Even the quote unquote wall of indifference originally, or the wall of silence of these things, were originally designed to basically force black women back to the table. It was not designed to be an absolute walk away. I don't care what you say. Any of y'all that want to challenge me on that, because some of y'all want to challenge me out that we're married to black women. Y'all in relationships. So stop acting like y'all.
Unreal.
I'm not going to deal with a bitch, at all bullshit. Shut up. Because I already know what niggas are going to try to say.
Unreal.
Oh, that's not true. Yes, it was. That was not like when I say date out with. It's just a permanent, we might as well not even deal with each other bullshit. Unless it's individual case-by-case situations where it makes sense. But as a group, y'all don't want to have a social contract, then we're going to be on some buy here, pay here shit. And trust me, that's going to be a more expensive endeavor. Because again, women and children need a community a lot more than men, because men can always take their resources and their agency, their masculinity to South Beach or to another place. Well, you ain't gonna have a black community. Well, the black community is not meant for black men to rule it anyway. So what's the point in individual sacrifice for something that is not meant for you to rule? The black community is not meant to benefit black boys. You see, you when I ask you what is this community for from a black male point of view, nobody can answer that question. And we've been in this for like 12 years now. Nobody can answer that question. You know why? Because it's not me. Even black men don't answer that question. They just come up with various forms of you should do it anyway bullshit, or they try to appeal to your humanity and appeal to your emotions. Basically anything and everything to keep you they do the same thing to you as the Democratic Party.
Bro, that's you.
The Democratic Party. Really?
That's you, bro. That's you.
This is the comic book aficionado.
Wait, Mike. He just blamed it on the Democratic Party. Did I just hear that?
Dynamic superheroes and supervillains. The Punisher is certainly not one to be taken lightly. This gun-toting anti-hero is no typical do-gooder type. The Punisher, aka the captivating Frank Castle, is a whole different breed. In a world where superheroes are expected to be shining beacons of morality, the Punisher challenges the status quo, walking a tightrope between heroism and darkness. While the likes of Captain America, Iron Man, and Black Widow may fight for justice with a hint of restraint, the Punisher throws caution to the wind and lets loose his trigger finger. He's a force to be reckoned with, passing even the ferocity of Wolverine and the unwavering justice of Batman. You could probably hold him on the same pedestal as Superman. The Punisher's character first appeared as a minor antagonist in the comic series of Amazing Spider-Man. But despite his unapologetically lethal methods, there's no confusion about which side of the hero-villain divide he falls on. The Punisher is feared for his...
Mike, what the hell is this?
I think that's Nagone. I'm not sure what's going on, man.
Yeah, it's not me.
That ain't me either. Who the hell is that?
I don't know, man. Let me finish playing the rest of this.
The hell?
They do the same thing to you as the Democratic Party does to fucking black people when it comes to reparations or it comes to anything. We're not talking about reparations. We're just talking about a mutually beneficial agreement in the form of a social contract.
How do you get that out of the Democratic Party? How do you extrapolate that from the Democratic Party?
Mike, when the hell has Edward ever talked politics? Help me understand this.
Yeah, but you got to understand that when you're talking to people as stupid as the people that he tried to get, it makes no sense. I mean, you would have to have no understanding of history, no understanding of the space in general, no understanding, and pretty much don't care about anything to even listen to this stuff. Like I say, man, like we're not trying to bring people over here from his camp. That's the reason why we're actually criticizing the video. We're just criticizing the video because it's straight up wrong. And there's no context for it even being anywhere toward the point of being right. And there's really no real need to go around lying about things that are pretty set in stone. I mean, he doesn't even know that he reached out to Q Soul and Black. He was giving the content creators a 1.0, and then he went around lying about the simple fact that he reached out to them, or that he didn't even know what the content creators were. Wacky Rotor O played that today on his actual show. So going this far out of the window for this guy was not needed. Again, but when you're a full-time YouTuber, you got to hop your ass off into everything, regardless of factual information. So I guess this is where we at.
They don't even have that conversation. They won't even commit to anything when it comes to that. But you're expected to do all of this deposit work. Again, that crap was proven in 2.0, not 1.0. 1.0 pretty much started asking the questions. The questions weren't really answered until 2.0. I mean, 1.0, it still ended, and it's funny because it ended in all them people being attacked by women, and a lot of the women were the quote-unquote swirlers, and a lot of the women were silent on it.
Wow.
They're still in there. You gotta remember when these things were being had. These things were being had in the 2010s when you had all this retarded, you had all of this stripper culture, and a lot of this stuff was really, 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 really prevalent. And so they weren't hearing nothing. They weren't. A lot of these chicks weren't even engaging with men like that because, and as far as they're concerned, you had a whole bunch of simps, a whole bunch of things paying them off, and all of that. Once that changed, now two things changed. The first thing was that bullshit changed with having as many simps that they could do. Endless simping, endless dick, endless simping, endless dudes willing to deal with them. Even though at the time, remember, they were still talking that shit about, they were still talking that shit. Remember, that color purple shit still existed. all of that, you know, black women aren't this and colorism and all of that. Yet they wouldn't even talk to black women because they didn't feel the need to. As far as they're concerned, they were still getting enough. This is before passport, bro, even though technically that exists in another form, aka the black man's option. Shout out to them brothers. I need to start promoting them brothers more. And yeah, so basically what you have, so basically it was the environment changes, BGS would say, and the environment changes led to fucking you know, Kevin Samuels.
Edward, the link's in the chat, bro. You could always come up. You could always come up, Edward.
But let's just make sure, because there is an Edward Anderson troll account. But if that's Edward, you're more than welcome, bro.
No, no, that's Edward. No, the link is in the chat.
Come on up. Come on up, bro. Come on up.
The link is in the chat.
Come on up. We're waiting, bro. Come on up.
But no, don't block Edward.
Yeah, don't block him. Yeah, don't block him, bro. But Edward, the link is there. The link is right there, bro. And if you need some course material before you hit the link, if you go to the About Us tab, it'll give you a refresher on what 3.0 is so that you kind of get it together before you come on up. Okay? But hit the link. Come on up.
Yeah, I mean, pull up. I mean,
we'll wait.
We're not here to Oh, the channel has 0 subscribers. I mean, either way, it could, you know. Okay. I mean, realistically, he would have 0 subscribers too if he was 1.0. But I'm just saying. Okay. I mean, we're at the end of the clip anyways. I don't want to play any more of it because I think we've made our point that, you know, I really don't know how he came to the Democratic Party in 1.0. I don't know where he gets that from, man.
Dude, that was a goddamn stretch, bro. Goddamn.
Yeah. Anyways, I just want to say this, man. When it comes to 1.0, the people who are responding to all of this are not telling the full history. Okay. There's a lot of misinformation that has gone out for the last 10 days or so. And quite frankly, the last few years. But just the last 7 days alone, we've heard a lot of misinformation about what 1.0 is. We know what 2.0 is, but no one really knows what 1.0 is because you had to have been there to really understand what the space was like and what the congregation was like, what it was like to congregate with certain people online and offline. You know, it wasn't just all male space, but there were actually women in the space, but men were the predominant voice in the space. That being said, the idea that, you know, 1.0 was full of SBE, you know, it was SBE before 2.0, that's misinformation. Okay, a lot of misinformation. Okay, Thugtician was nothing about SBE. Kobe NBA West, nothing about SBE. Okay, Pink Elephant, no such thing as SBE with him. He told the experience about being a Black or a Nigerian brother living in California in the academy itself, in undergrad and masters in graduate school and so on and so forth, and being a public school teacher. So the idea that guys were just sitting around doing SBE, that's just not true. None of this information is true. You notice that when they have these conversations, they never bring anybody up from 1.0. They never do it. Wacky Word of O, Don Calypso, Soul in Black, they never have us on the panels.
Nope.
They always have the conversation amongst themselves or amongst other people who don't know anything about the space that happened before. And so the purpose of these sort of responses, these sort of this sort of analysis is so that when you hear information like this, shoot me an email or a DM or something like that and say, Mike, check this out. Because I'll correct the record every single time. And I drop and the link stays in the chat so that if you disagree with what I'm saying, you're free to come up and challenge, because they don't do that on their side, okay? What they do is they screen who comes up so that they can actually dominate the conversation. You're not going to dominate this conversation on the Black Brain Trust. Ain't going to happen.
Hey, Mike?
Yes, sir. Any last thoughts from you?
Well, there was a question from Gyogami.
Okay.
I wanted you to address it. He said, when you say Manosphere 1.0, do you speak of time before split specific? Wait. Let me get. When you say Manosphere 1.0, do you speak of a time before split leading a specific Black Manosphere, or do you think there has always been? I think it was the text, but been a 1.0 detached from the rest. For I was there since 2010 with MGTOW. So I want you to explain what the whole the 0.0 paradigm is, so he can kind of get a framework.
No, what I consider to be 1.0 is not necessarily time-based, but more about experience in amalgamation of different platforms. So, for example, in 2006, YouTube was like the MOT. In 2006, YouTube had just launched, okay? Prior to that, you had MySpace, and you had different sort of other platforms that were out before that too. AOL Black Voices being a very significant portion of where Black men congregated themselves into, as well as a space. That being said, the conversations carried over based on the technology at the time, okay? And I think that like-minded Black men being in these spaces kind of bounced a lot of conversations off of each other, and so it created an algorithm within itself. I don't know if MGTOW can be considered a part of that time frame, primarily because I don't think that language was in the lexicon. That it was not a part of the Black lexicon at the time. Especially when you start talking about being pro-Black, like the idea of a MGTOW didn't exist. At least I never heard it from Jenks Morton or even Tariq Nasheed, for that matter, in Black YouTube. They didn't really use that language, and so I don't know if that can be considered. But I think once you got used to the space that you were in, it was very seldom that you would go outside of it. Now, Barbarossa being, put an asterisk next to his name, I think that he had the ability and the flexibility to go back and forth in between predominantly Black male spaces and then back into that other space. But he's the exception and not the rule. And so I think sometimes, based on my experience and based on what I know, I would say that there was not really so much of a detachment, but more of a transition. Because once you start going to Generation X, and then you go from Generation X to completely Blog Talk or some other platform, I think that was the transition that helped facilitate that that move to what we now call 2.0. I hope that answers the question, because it's kind of long-winded, but I have to think back because I don't remember that language being used exclusively or even seldomly within the space itself. I don't remember that. I remember some straight language being used, but I don't remember, MGTOW being used or any of those other terms being used.
That was all, Mikey. It was just that question that Gilgany had. I wanted to address it.
Yeah, I don't have anything else at this point, man. I think that we've covered a lot of what I think is misinformation. And if anybody thinks it's not misinformation, you're always free to come up and challenge me on this. I was there. I don't remember any of that. I remember the space very vividly, like it happened yesterday, and I don't remember any of that stuff being brought up that this content creator was talking about. MOT, you have anything else you want to say before you peel out here?
Yeah, I got a question. I mean,
Yes,
like, why is it so hard to reach out to people who have expert knowledge on what it is? Like, these people are not silent. They're not. I mean, the information is public. Like, there's an about section where you can contact people. There's really no reason to go off and be completely 100% wrong about anything, especially when the people are still here. It's not like 1.0 happened thousands of years ago, and it's this special level of study that no one else has the information but a couple of people. Like, no, these people are still here, and it's just disingenuous. I just don't like it, man. It's just crazy. But thanks for having me.
No, I feel you 100%, man. I feel the same way. I don't know why they do it. Instead of, because there's probably a dozen people from 1.0 that's still here, that still frequents the space. May not get on panels or anything like that, but if you had put the call out, folks would have showed up. But that's the thing, MOT. Having us on these panels actually contradict everything that they were, trying to say about what existed before and what's happening now. It's just not true. A lot of folks stepped off after the incident that happened in around 2009. And so when you have people who don't know the history, they'll always try to make it seem like you just got ran off, and that's not true. Here's
another thing. I didn't all the way know the history, but I knew what the intent was based on the actual focus, and that's where my channel actually came in at. But at the end of the day, when I wanted to just switch from, okay, enough of this pointing out the problem, now we have to go toward the solution, people left. They wanted to hear more about the problem. And as long as you keep wetting that whistle of these lost and broken men, they're never going to go anywhere. But I just say, hey, man, you know what, man? Let's just keep moving. Just take the stuff to the actual people and let these people who actually want to have this fringe-based conversation, lead them out there with the dudes who are going to be lost, man. Hey, man, leave them out there.
I also want to highlight this because it's really important that people understand a lot of your white male content creators' grievance with white women was because those white women like black men. Okay. And so they didn't even like having brothers in the space. That's why you didn't see a whole lot of black men on that side, but you saw a whole lot of black men on this side. And so that's how you got, a black male conscious collective. That's how you got that, because black men knew what the deal was over there. That was not a that was more. It was very before instead of Jim Crow, it was Jim Code over there. Okay, they ain't like brothers being over there in their social spaces like that, because their grievance with white women was that white women were chasing brothers, and so that was their frustration, and they would like for nothing more than to keep black men out of those spaces. And so anybody who thinks that we came out of the white manosphere, that's not true. We did not come out of the white manosphere. We were always in black spaces, since the AOL days, since the CompuCom, I should say CompuCom, but the net zero days. That .com burst in 2000. Folks was in black spaces, and so
Earthlink looked smart back then.
Well, the early days of DSO, that fast connection where you can actually get involved in that sort of fast chat relays. And so I think that what happens in the manosphere is that we get conflated with being a part of, the Anglosphere, and we were never a part of the Anglosphere. We were always a part of the Negrosphere, right? The black spaces. We were never a part of that. So want to make that clear. There's a lot of folks in here who like to spread this information like we were down with them. No, we were never down with them. So All right. Thank you all for joining us, man.